What's up, everybody? I'm Robert Schmitz, and I'm excited to bring you this first episode of a brand new series that's all about covering the Bears game that happened this week. In this case, we've got week 1 of the preseason. See, maybe you guys have noticed, but I'm usually only able to put out a video about once a month, sometimes in 2 weeks if I work really hard on it, and I want to be able to do a little bit more considering that we've got this gold mine of content in the form of a Bears game every single week. So I've got a new format planned where I'm going to pick out a number of plays, in this case I've got 10, that I'm going to walk through and give you analysis on as detailed as I can, especially given that in the preseason we don't have access to all 22 footage, so that you know what you need to take away from each individual Bears game. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Now, the first play I want to start with, and I should mention that these are going to go in chronological order of the game, so we're going to start with the stuff that happened first, is this Roquan Smith sack. Yeah, okay. It's not that impressive of a sack, considering he just runs through an open portion of the line and hits the quarterback, but I think it's a great reminder that this Bears defense is primed to do some huge things throughout this season. They're stacked to the brim with talent, and Roquan Smith has taken that next step, as we've seen in training camp and, frankly, even in the Philadelphia game. This guy is hungry, he is ready to make big plays, and this sack is just a neat little reminder, and the first preseason game no less, that Roquan Smith is here and he's ready to roll. Moving on to the second play I want to talk about, let's talk about Mike Davis and this 12-yard run. Because, believe it or not, I don't want to talk about Mike Davis. I want to talk about James Daniels and Cody Whitehair. Now, as I'm sure you all know, Bears fans, Cody Whitehair and James Daniels swapped positions in the offseason. Whitehair was a center, is now a guard, and Daniels was a guard, is now a center. These sorts of transitions often can leave lines in confusion, but on this play, as we can see, Whitehair jumps right off the line and drills his man, and Daniels gets to the second level to open up a huge hole. This is one of the bigger holes that I've seen, and I'm going to include last year on that when it comes to between the tackles running, and I think that spells really good things for this offensive line transition. Obviously, you want these things to go swimmingly. This one looks like it is, and I want to give a shout out to Bradley Soule, who also helps Charles Leno make a solid block. I'm hoping that Soule is able to put things together and play the role of a solid blocking tight end. As this play shows us, the Whitehair-Daniels transition is going pretty well, and while it's something we should probably keep an eye on going forward, it's not something that I think demands tremendous worry. Now on this third play, I've got to go a little bit negative. I had a lot of plays that I could choose from when I wanted to talk about Kwiatkowski, like this one right here where he and Kylie Fitz both get hosed off of a short pass, or this play right here where the running back takes a dump off screen and literally forces Kwiatkowski to slide in front of him, but I'm going to go with this shallow crossing route where Kwiatkowski, as I'm sure you can see, points out where the play is going, but is still not able to actually reach the runner and stop him from getting the edge and picking up the first down. This is not a good thing, because this play shows that Kwiatkowski has control over his position, knows what he's supposed to do, even calls out where the ball is probably going, but just doesn't have the speed to track down that wide receiver and make the play. When you're talking about inside linebacker depth, especially in this Bears offense that's focused around Danny Trevathan and Roquan Smith having a ton of speed, that is not what you want to see out of your depth linebacker, and I don't think that spells well for Kwiatkowski going forward, who, if you remember, when he did get playing time in Week 1 last year against Green Bay, also got embarrassed on many of the same types of plays. Inside linebacker depth is a serious question because I'm also going to use this play as a jumping off point to talk about Joel Iyiegbuniwe's not so great tackle in the third quarter of this preseason game where he, as you can see, approached the running back at the 2-yard line, decided that he would just let the running back kind of make a leap for the end zone, and in a really awkward segment, the running back ends up getting a touchdown that probably should have been stopped at the 2. Our inside linebacking depth does not look particularly sound, and it's something that I'm personally keeping an eye on going forward because right now, Kevin Pierre-Louis and Josh Woods look like our best inside linebackers after Trevathan and Smith, and I don't know how much I like that. But let's move on now to more positive things to talk about Deon Bush's pass breakup. And yes, I'm well aware he had an interception in that game too, but the pass breakup showed him break on the receiver and knock the ball away, whereas the interception, as we can see, showed him pretty much just stand in place as the quarterback threw more or less directly at him and he picked off the pass. Picking off a pass is a really good thing, don't get me wrong, but in this video, I want to talk more about traits and things that we think are replicable in the season. And in this pass breakup, Bush has to keep pace with an outbreaking receiver from his safety position to knock the ball away. He's in good position, and he shows that he's got some skill back there and can be useful in Pagano's defense, whereas the interception just shows he was in the right place at the right time. We already know Deon Bush is a really solid downhill attacker, as we also saw in the preseason game, so I get the impression, not just based on this play, but also what we saw out of Deon Bush in the playoff game, that Bush is likely to make his way into Pagano's defense, especially considering that neither HaHa Clinton-Dix or Eddie Jackson is all that great playing downhill. Bush could very well slot into formations where we have three safeties on the field, commonly called big nickel, as the hitter, and this preseason game is pretty good indication of what he's able to do. But now let's talk about the guy that I know you want to hear about, David Montgomery, who looked like a young star in this preseason game. Now remember, it is just the preseason, but in this game we were able to see him turn runs that would have been no yard gains into 3 or 4 yard gains. And honestly, out of a running back, that is exactly what you want to see. There are a lot of plays that I could pick to go over in this segment, but I'm going to take the easiest one. This screen catch where he was able to take a screen out and turn it into a 23-yard gain, partially due to this awesome move that he's able to put on the defensive back. Montgomery's change of direction ability is simply so dangerous that with one plant of his foot, he is a legitimate threat to flat out change directions, so when he sells this fake to his left, the defensive back has no choice but to honor the fact that Montgomery honestly might be trying to break inside on him. This allows Montgomery to plant that second foot and shoot straight out to that right-hand side, throwing the defensive back just enough off balance that Montgomery is able to squeeze out that extra 6 yards that takes this from a 17-yard gain into a 23-yard gain, creating a first down on a 2nd and 20. These are exactly the kinds of moves that I think Bears fans are quickly going to grow to associate with David Montgomery, as he displayed later in the game that he was able to turn nothing into something with this spin move right here inside the red zone and on his well-known touchdown where he, as you can see, saw that he was supposed to go up the middle, saw that a linebacker was in the way, broke left, and got into the end zone with one quick plant. The guy looks like he's going to be able to function really, really well in this Nagy offense, and I, like most Bears fans, am really, really excited to watch him. Now let's get on to another player that I think is a really interesting case to watch, and that's Ian Bunting. So coming into this game, I'd heard that the Bears liked Ian Bunting a lot, but what I didn't expect was to see such an up-and-down player that showed he could make plays, but also had a mistake to back every single play that he made. Take a look at this play, which typifies this perfectly. Ian Bunting catches this ball over the middle, breaks a tackle, and then fumbles to a defensive back that runs right up to him and punches the ball out because he held the ball a little bit too high and pretty much right in front of where the defensive back wants it if he's going to try to force a fumble. It's a rookie mistake. It's something that I think can be fixed with time, but it really does typify exactly what this guy's start was like. Because earlier in the game, he broke another tackle to create a first down, even though this was ultimately called back by penalty, but then a couple plays later got absolutely hosed on this block and gave up a sack to Chase Daniel. Later in the game, he committed a false start penalty, but then, literally 2 plays later, Bunting ran this route right here and picked up 40-ish yards on a play that showed he's got speed, he's got size, and he's generally an effective receiving tight end. Bunting is a bit of an enigma right now, but if it's me calling it, and lucky for me it is, I think he's got a lot of talent and a lot of ability that you want to see in guys, certainly stuff that we didn't see from people like Dax Raymond or Ellis Richardson in this preseason game that you can work on. A lot of size, he can break a tackle, which, let's be honest, Bears fans, we are dying to see our receiving tight end actually break a tackle, but obviously you can't have those rookie mistakes. You can't have him missing blocks, you can't have false starts, you can't have fumbles when you're breaking tackles over the middle. So we'll see if Bunting can clear that up. He seems at the moment like he's a great candidate for the practice squad, but part of me worries if he could get there, because if a desperate team had room on their roster, they might see the upside of what he was able to bring, considering that, and I kid you not, Ian Bunting had 77 passing yards. The Bears had 170 passing yards. That means Ian Bunting had 45% of the Bears' passing yards in this game. It's a lot, certainly noticeable, and he's somebody to watch for going forward. The seventh play that I want to talk about, and this one, honestly, is kind of a heartbreaker, is Eddie Piñeiro's missed kick and Fry's subsequent make. Obviously, we had heard that Eddie Piñeiro had the stronger leg of the two and was actually doing better in camp, kicking at about 88% compared to Fry's 85%. But to see Piñeiro miss this 48-yarder, and not only miss it, but miss it pretty bad because it didn't have Piñeiro's common distance on it either, was not good, especially when Fry then followed it up by making his 43-yard field goal right down the middle with a little bit of extra distance, even after Coach Ron Rivera on the Panthers did Nagy a favor by icing him. And yes, that happened. He iced a preseason kicker. But Fry made his kick, Piñeiro didn't. Considering that Piñeiro seemed to be the leader coming into this game, watching him miss that kick, especially as poorly as he did, and Fry make his, certainly as well as he did, only further serves to complicate an already messy Bears kicker situation, in which at this point, I'm not even sure the kicker that we will have in Week 1 is on the roster. But hey, we'll have to see. It is just one game. It's obviously a small sample size, but with kicking, it really just matters with what happens when the lights are on, not what happens in training camp practices. So again, Piñeiro missing and Fry making it, I don't know what to think. Moving on now, the eighth play that I want to talk about typifies exactly what I think of second half preseason football. As we see, Tyler Bray is going to take his snap and he's going to throw left to Tanner Gentry, who is blocking on the play. And you know that he's running the wrong assignment because Ryan Nall, in the shot, throws his hands in the air, seeming to say, "Come on, man, what are you doing?" That's preseason football for you, especially second half preseason football. There's a lot we can draw, but the skill and talent drop from certainly the guys who were in the first quarter, let alone the starters that didn't play, to anybody playing in that second half is so drastic that if somebody like Taquan Mizell runs wild or Kareth White takes a big carry, you just have no idea whether it's replicable. Pretty much the only thing that you really need to actually take cues from in this second half of the preseason is stuff that happens with officiating and special teams, which leads me perfectly into talking about Play 9, where I want to talk about Duke Shelley on special teams. So as we know, special teams was a problem for the 2018 Bears. So as we head into this 2019 season, I know I'm keeping an eye out on who's going to be able to play well in special teams. We know Ben Broniker's pretty good on special teams. We know Sherrick McManus is pretty good on special teams. But who else is? To see Duke Shelley racing down as a gunner and blocking his heart out as a pass protect blocker, whatever that's called, was awesome. Because as you can see on this play, he mugged the gunner in front of him. And as you can see on these other plays, because there were two of them, he was the first guy to reach the ball, and after he'd missed the first tackle, he would get up and race back and be the first guy to tackle him afterwards. This guy's got speed, he's got heart on special teams, that's exactly what you want to see, and it looks to me like Duke Shelley is actually going to be a decent little special teams contributor. I personally really like that out of the 6th round pick. And finally, I want to close with a very weird last play, but it's an important one to note, because as anybody who watched the preseason saw, Matt Nagy actually tested the officials on what is and what isn't reviewable pass interference. Taquan Mizell seemed to get touched, kinda. I wouldn't call it interference on this pass play, but Matt Nagy thought, might as well, and threw the challenge flag to see what the refs were going to say about it. As the review came back, they said that the call stood, that there was not egregious and obvious evidence of pass interference enough to overturn the call, so the call in the field stood. That, as a fan, makes me really happy because the review was really fast. It happened over a commercial break, and they didn't change what could have been a messy completion. I would have felt personally really guilty, honestly, if that had been called interference, considering that the defender simply has his arm behind Mizell's back. Is he technically touching him? Yeah, I guess. But he's not interfering with Mizell's ability to make this catch in a way that I find egregious, certainly not if you're going to go to video review about it. I appreciate Matt Nagy taking a stab at trying to see what the officials would say, and he found, just like we found now because he tried, that this new defensive pass interference reviewability isn't going to break football as we know it. A lot of the concerns look like they're overblown. The NFL certainly still wants to play football pretty much exactly the same way they used to, and I, for one, am all about that. And that's all I got for you, Bears fans. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure to comment below what you think of the new format. Do you like what I'm doing? Do you not? What'd you think of the preseason game? Did you like what you saw? Are you excited about this Bears team going forward? Any comments are welcome. And if you like this video, be sure to like it, because that lets YouTube know that it's good and it helps it circulate to as many Bears fans as possible. And if you like what I'm saying, be sure to follow me on Twitter. It's where I do a lot of my work, especially in the form of Twitter threads where I analyze different players on a smaller scale level than some of the other breakdowns that you've seen, so you don't want to miss out. Be sure to follow me there. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, bear down, and thanks so much for bearing with me.